6 o'clock, we're going to call the February 27th Elk Creek Fire Protection District Board of Directors meeting to order. Welcome everybody, and if you would, please rise, remove your hat, and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Would you like to read the name?
I'd be honored to, sir.
Okay. Would you all please rise again, remove your hats, as we honor those that have fallen this last month?
And the totals on the board are correct, Director Pixley.
Oh, okay. Thanks for doing that.
And we have 16 of those 26 to be read here tonight. On the 16th of January, William Bill Nix, age 72, motor vehicle accident while responding to an engine. He was from Thomasville, Missouri. The 22nd of January, Anthony Mock, age 39, occupational cancer, Phoenix, Arizona. That same day, Robert Heaney, age 49, occupational cancer as well, Washington, D.C. The 23rd of January, Roger Lathrop, age 52, heart attack, Millerton, Pennsylvania. The 25th of January, Douglas Irwin, also age 52, occupational cancer, Naperville, Illinois. The 26th of January, Christopher Michael Clevenger, age 33, heart attack, Sweet Springs, Missouri. 29 January, Brent Kostanko, age 55, of occupational cancer, Ann Arbor, Michigan. The 1st of February, Mark Eads, age 62, medical emergency, Kings County, California. The 3rd of February, Jacob Scott Kincaid, age 37, motor vehicle accident while returning from training, Richlands, Virginia. That same day, Patrick Hayes, age 46, died of occupational cancer, Chicago, Illinois. The 12th of February, John Godet, age 40, fireground, structure fire, Binghamton, New York. That same day, Brian Coles, age 79, occupational cancer in Toronto, Ontario. The 13th of February, Steve A. Weichel, age 70, medical emergency, Covington, Virginia. The 16th of February, James Masterson Jr., age 62, of occupational cancer, Evansville, Indiana. The 17th of February, Eric Scobie, age 52, also of occupational cancer, Peoria, Illinois. And that same day, Jeffrey Lawson, age 54, medical emergency from War, West Virginia. And that's the end of this month's list.
Please join me in a moment of silence as we honor our heroes. Thank you all. Please be seated. And a roll call of members. We do have Director Woods and Director Devaney. And on Zoom, we have Director Newby. He has acknowledged. And Director Baker is absent, excused. Okay, that will take us to our agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Director Newby, if you would, just let me know if you have anything.
No, nothing here, Ray.
Okay, thank you. Director Woods? Okay, and Director Devaney, any additions, deletions?
No, I motion we approve the agenda as stands.
There's a motion to approve, and a second. There's a motion to approve the agenda and a second. Director Newby, we'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, that will take us to our public comment period. Thank you, Ms. Barb. Remind everybody that you have 3 minutes, and that time will be ran by Director Devaney. And it looks like we are going to start with Neil Whitehead. Thank you, sir. If you would. Thank you, sir. Sharon?
Thank you.
If you would, you could give me a call out of 1 or 2 minutes, I'd appreciate it.
At 2 and 1?
Yes.
Okay.
Ready?
I am here.
I come before you again to urge you to place a second referendum on the May 6th ballot to ask the question, should Elk Creek Fire Protection District remain an independent fire protection district or join with the new Conifer Fire Department from the North Fork and Inner Canyon? The deadline is for placing the ballot language is March the 8th. The decision to join is not an operational matter, but one that requires the approval of the voters of the Elk Creek Fire Protection District. Consolidation was rejected in the November 2023 election. Elections have consequences. This fact is a key issue of the ongoing appeals. Next, in the Chief's report for January 23rd board meeting, he wrote, quote, "The Volunteer Academy is also on hold. Over the next few months, we will be making some decisions on how we move forward." In the Chief's report for tonight, there is no mention of the Volunteer Academy status. I would like to know if the Volunteer Fire Academy was conducted in the fall of 2024. I heard absolutely no mention of the Volunteer Academy at any of the board meetings or elsewhere.
2 minutes.
Was the board or public informed of the Volunteer Academy cancellation? If not, why not? If the Academy has been shut down and its future is in doubt, does this mean that the future of Elk Creek Fire and the Conifer Fire Department would have no volunteer component? Next, attached to these remarks is a flyer from the Colorado State Forest Service dated December 24. On page 2, table 2, shows a grant for Elk Creek Fire for the Conifer Wildland Division PIO program for Jefferson Park and Douglas counties in the amount of $275,000 and no cents. Well, why hasn't this grant award been announced at the January or February board meeting by the chief? Why do citizens have to Google searches to find out what's happening in the district? Tomorrow is the last day to self-nominate for a position on this board. Save Elk Creek Fire.
All right, we'll go to Ms. Noonan.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Noonan. I'm a resident up on Shadow Mountain. If you could give me a warning if I get close to a minute.
Yeah, 1 minute.
I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank the outgoing board members, Melissa Baker and Greg Pixley. I think you guys have served with honor and grace during these challenging times, and I appreciate all of you that continue to do what's best for this community and for Elk Creek Fire. I encourage the board to continue on your path towards unification. I completely understand that unification does not require a vote of the community, and I'm in full support of unification. I encourage everyone to continue to listen to the experts in this field, to read the feasibility study, to listen to the firefighters, the EMTs, the paramedics who serve this community well, and to listen to the majority of this existing board when they tell us what's needed to ensure we have a robust Conifer Fire Department. You know, living in the wildland-urban interface, the WUI, which is the funniest acronym I've heard in a while, I hope we continue to focus on neighborhood protection and we work on having some significant impacts to our insurance premiums to all the people that live up here. I noticed, looking at voting in the past, in nationwide elections, and then specifically in this election in 2023, I did some math. There are under 1,300 people who voted here, of an estimated 17,000 residents. So I just encourage anybody that's listening on Zoom or sitting in here who attends these meetings to get out and vote. Because, you know, so your voices are heard and you can make a difference. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That'll lead us to Mr. Leo.
Hi, my name's Al Leo. I live at 19293 Silver Ranch Road in Conifer. I'm a resident of Elk Creek Fire Protection District. You know, unfortunately, I'm here making comments similar to those that I made last month because Elk Creek Fire Protection District's unification with Conifer Fire Department continues to be obstructed. I again urge this board to take every opportunity to remove the both roadblocks to unification with the Conifer Fire Department. The people in this room and the people on Zoom can make that happen. While decisions are being reconsidered, it might be worth remembering. Elk Creek Fire's mission is to encourage and promote life safety, risk reduction, to provide fire suppression and emergency services, and to make our community a safe place to live, work, and play. The board of directors exists to provide financial oversight and use its best efforts to ensure Elk Creek Fire is fiscally sound in providing those high-quality services to our community and giving our firefighters the benefits they need for their safety, health, and well-being. I cheated and read the board packet before the meeting. Because of these appeals, the fire district and the chief is facing financial uncertainty. You know, the quote, I think, from the board packet is there, the district is in a holding pattern. Well, this is unacceptable and really the exact opposite of what a board of directors is supposed to be responsible for doing. The district board is not for political agendas or nostalgia, but for ensuring the safety and well-being of our community. We hear a lot about Robert's rules in this room. You know the current version is over 600 pages long. I know, I bought it, but I don't think I'll read it. Now,
So much for that.
so much for that. But the online version has a pearl of wisdom in it. The 4th edition, which was written in 1915, when it's still written by General Henry M. Robert, in the preface has this. The object of rules of orders is to assist an assembly to accomplish in the best possible manner the work for which it was designed. To do this, it's necessary to restrain the individual somewhat, as the right of an individual in any community to do as he pleases is incompatible with the interests of the whole. Where there is no law, but every man does what is right in his own eyes, there is the least of real liberty. I again urge this board to remove the roadblocks, make this happen for the community's benefit. The people in this room can make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. And that leads us to Mr. Cox.
Is it okay if I sit down and we'll?
Bring goodies?
Pardon? Yeah, I did bring goodies. I brought tomato puree by Muir Glen, whose motto is "We support our firefighters." It also creates a defensible perimeter if I need it.
Pretty sure I could log a Ricola over there.
Okay, so glasses on. And I'm going to start my own timer as well. Here we go. Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to address the Elk Creek FPD Board of Directors. My name is Flip Koch. I reside in the Wapwe Valley area of Elk Creek. I'm a third-generation firefighter and a volunteer member of this FPD. However, I speak to you here, as always, as a private citizen informed by my years of fire and other emergency service. First, the updated newbie legal tally. Per recent court request, I have the January 2025 legal expenditures for Elk Creek, which I will read into the record. Total legal expenditures, $4,537.70, of which $2,862.90, or 63.1%, are directly attributed to Director Charles F. Newby Jr. Adding similar sums for 2023 and 4 already reported here, the current running total for legal expenses over these 25 months due to Director Newby are now $32,433.70, or 53.9% of Elk Creek's total legal expenses over this period, and we taxpayers are paying for this wasteful spending of his. These legal expenses, however, will soon pale when compared to the cost of his and Dr. Whitehead's obstruction of unification via Jefferson County's Board of County Commissioners and First District Court. Through a series of core requests and examination of Elk Creek's 2024 and 5 budgets, we can make pretty reliable calculations of what this likely will cost us taxpayers. There are several ways to slice this onion. I've elected to do so in terms of 1, money already spent, 2, money that will be spent if the election takes place on the 6th of May, and 3, revenues and costs at risk. These last 2 don't include things like the risk premia charged Elk Creek in its lease of new fire engines, nor future Elk Creek legal fees defending the people of this district from the ill-informed ideas of employees and petitioners moving Whitehead with respect to the organizational and operational matters that are unification. So number 1, money already spent in legal election fees, $16.6 thousand. Number 2, money that will be spent at the director's elections held in May, election fees only, $19.2 thousand. Number 3, revenues and costs at risk, at least in 2025 and 6, for the chipping program and our fleet mechanics, both underwritten in 2024 by Intercanada FPD, and foregoing the reduction of property taxes payments in 2026 if Elk Creek is not part of a conifer, for Director Newby has not told the truth. The associated mill levy rate within today's Elk Creek is slated to decrease in 2026 if we're in conifer fire. These sums total $233,000 this year, $440,000 next year. All in, by about this time next year, unchecked, these 2 cavalier individuals will have cost Elk Creek taxpayers an estimated cool $707,000. This is the cost of political power and ego. Remember, these expenses are only necessary because of the actions of these 2 men, and don't you dare say you told us this would happen. That is blaming the victim, and you 2 have victimized everybody in this FPD. I'm sorry, your legal actions are neither righteous nor in the public interest. They are instead irresponsible, partisan pseudo-populism, and I urge this board to continue defending our community's emergency services through pursuing unification. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you all for spoken during public comment. That'll lead us to the next item on our agenda. I'm just going to review the January 2025 meeting minutes. Did you guys get a chance to look at that? Director Newby, did you get a chance to look at the 2025 meeting minutes in January?
Yeah, they look fine to me, Greg.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the January 25th meeting minutes.
Second motion.
All right, there was a motion and a second, and it, just for the record, that was January 23rd, not January 25th. Okay.
I saw the 2025 and my brain stuttered.
All right, motion to approve the January 23rd, 2025, lot of 2025 regular meeting minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that motion carries. That leads us to financial matters. Treasurer Woods.
Okay, this is our, January obviously is our first month of our fiscal/calendar year. So that is what this report is going to be about. Next slide. What I'm going to do is cover the forecast and the components of the forecast. 1 month of actual expenses does not, it'll be on the last slide, but 1 month of actual expenses doesn't give us any trends. So we're going to just talk about the forecast for the most part. So for revenue forecast, we have $7,533,076. Expenses, $7,443,742. But that does include legal expenses, which are about 3% of the forecasted revenue. Forecasted expenses. Income forecast is $89,334. Next slide. So I put up this nice little circle. I thought it was really attractive. I like it. This basically shows you what we talked about in 2024, and that is property tax revenue is approximately 61% of our revenue. The rest of it, surf wildfire reimbursement is about 20%. That means between the two of them, they are 81% of our revenue. So these are both important numbers. Ambulance billings, interest income are about 5% each. Ownership taxes, 4%. Reimbursement from IFC reimbursement for the departments that we normally get reimbursement for. This is something that I think Mr. Koch just talked about. Those revenues are at risk because we are not positive that Conifer Fire is going to use Elk Creek to do those particular maintenance and fuels crew type things. So I believe that's a considerable amount of money, 3% of our revenue. Next slide. Expense budget, 2025 expense budget. Expense budget. Basically, we're looking at, just like property tax is 61% of our revenue, administration and SURF are together 34%, emergency services 16%, capital budget 12%. And I think the chief is probably going to talk about some of that. I don't know for sure. Maybe? Yeah. Okay. Fire comes in at 11%. Wildland suppression comes in at 10%. Maintenance is 5%. Training is 4%. Fuels crew and prevention are each 3%, and fire stations 2%. So part of our capital expenditures, I believe, this year will be some improvements to stations. So that's one of the reasons why capital is a little bit higher than I would normally expect it to be. In terms of other pieces, I think it's just nice to understand that our expenses are almost equal to our revenue. We're forecasting about $89,000 in net, if you want to call it profit, or basically revenue over expenses. So it's not a considerable amount. Next slide. Property taxes. I want to show you this because property taxes don't come in evenly throughout the year. We have a big bump in March. That's when most people pay their property taxes 100%. And then we get another small bump in July. So revenue stream, although it goes upwards, right, for the whole year, there are some peaks and valleys in how we receive our revenue. Next slide. This basically shows the property tax revenue as it goes throughout the year. So you see a little bit of bump in March, and then you see another bump in July, and then year to date you have a forecast of $4,572,220. So even though it continues to rise, it becomes very flat the last quarter of the year, because that's just how our revenue goes. Next slide. Expenses. The expenses that are the most prominent, I think you saw it on a previous slide, are labor. So we'll talk about labor in terms of with and without SURF, because we actually get reimbursed for SURF revenue by the state of Colorado. It's it lags a little behind when the fires actually occur, but we do get reimbursed. So labor without SURF is $3,528,302. It just pretty much is a straight line. It just continues to increase throughout the year. Next slide. SURF, what you see in SURF is the first part of the year, generally speaking. First part of the year there's not a lot of expenses for SURF because normally we don't have a lot of fires the first part of the year. That may change, and it is changing over time. So while this graph shows what it looked like based on previous years' rise, we do expect, just look at California, they had fires recently. So fires are kind of all year round. We also help with other natural disasters. We had one instance where we actually went to North Carolina and helped with some hurricane disaster. Next slide. This slide, it's kind of a mixed bag. Surf expenses for 2024 are $1,471,331. That's as of December. We get reimbursement for the surf jobs assignments that we do. So that number, the $2,137,982, is monies we've received through January 2025 for 2023 and 2024 fires and disasters. So reimbursement through January of 2025 is $1,196,215. So we have about $947,000 left to be received. The way this was done is that is expected to be received by the end of February. So we'll see if it shows up. Next slide. Expenses for the month of January 2025, $560,365. So I'll make a motion to approve the expenses for January 2025.
Is there a second on the motion?
So moved.
A motion to approve the state's financial ledger expenses recorded for January 2025 of $560,365. Discussion on the motion. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, we'll call a question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that motion carries. Thank you, Director Woods. Chief.
All right. First off, I did want to point out that one of our longtime volunteers, as well as a longtime member of the community, Tom Grizz Stillwell, passed away last week. He was the individual who played Santa in the parade. We were trying to figure out when he started. I think it was 2009. He'd been Santa for.
It had to be before that.
But nobody can figure out when the date was. He's been Santa forever.
He was Santa when my babies were little, so 2007,
Yeah.
when Peyton was there, he was Santa. So, it's
A long
forever.
time. Yeah.
My
Anyway,
kids cried
it was.
when they found out.
Yeah, it was pretty unfortunate. My kids were not super happy. So it was kind of a sad day. Passed away peacefully at his house. But we're going to do something for him. I'm working with his daughter. They're working on the obituary right now. Yeah, it's sad.
Was there a service?
I don't know. There probably will be. They're still working on all that stuff. It was a bit of a surprise. So they're kind of trying to navigate what the future looks like with that. But, yeah. So,
Can we observe a moment of silence for
Yeah, I think that would be
fallen
great.
brother and his firefighter Stillwell?
Yep.
Just give us a second, please. Thank you.
all right. So the beginning of the year has been challenging for us from a federal level all the way down to the district level. Our federal partners who we work with on a pretty regular basis at the U.S. Forest Service have suffered pretty significant losses in their labor force since the start of the year. The two districts that we work directly with have lost numerous employees, and those positions as of now are not going to be filled. As well as seasonal hiring is on a freeze. So it's really shaping up to be an interesting summer fire season. Nobody really knows what it's going to look like. Elk Creek has numerous grants, and when the federal grant program was frozen, Captain Yellen was hustling. We were trying to see which ones would be affected and which wouldn't be affected. And then luckily it kind of changed and most of the grants went through. Currently most of our grants are through the state of Colorado, so we're hoping down the road they're going to stay good. I mean, we had to go down all the way to the point to make sure our point of contact for our Good Neighbor Agreement with the Forest Service, our contact was still there. And I think she was, right? Which was good. So at the state level, I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but SB 23-166. It established the Wildfire Resiliency Code Board to adopt model codes requiring governing bodies within jurisdiction in an area within the wildland urban interface to adopt codes that meet or exceed the standards set forth for the model codes. It's presenting a lot of challenges because it's starting to come to a head. It was adopted obviously in '23. What it means is it has the potential to move fire mitigation, inspection, and enforcement duties to the fire protection districts. What that means is we may be in the business of, if nothing changes, we'll be in the business of inspecting fire mitigation, which is outside our normal, and then enforcing it and imposing fines, which is a problem because in Title 32 we can't necessarily do that. It has a lot of challenges. It's affecting the state. Fire districts all over the state. We're trying to figure out what it's going to look like. Legal counsels for all the fire protection districts are looking at it, and everybody's coming up with different interpretations, which is kind of fun. We have Fire Marshal Rush and Captain Yellen are working directly with Jefferson County to try and understand the bill and how we can work with the county to make a safe and effective change. One of the challenges is the time frame. This is where it gets weird. The final code must be published by July. Local jurisdictions need to adopt the code by October of 2025, and implementation needs to be January of 26.
Oh, okay. What's the problem?
Yeah, what's the problem?
You have that done. Do you
Many
chat GPT though? Sorry,
It's presenting a lot, but every fire protection district is going through this and trying to figure out. I mean, we don't have the bandwidth, we don't have the people. And legally, we can't enforce fines, imposing fines, because if you read it, which is riveting reading, it also talks about what the fines are. And they're very steep, and they can be imposed. And it gets very complicated. So we're working with the county trying to figure out where it goes. There'll be some updates, and it's a rapidly evolving thing, but it affects everybody across the state. One of the other things, so we're in a holding pattern for a lot of our programs. Our current legal challenges have been brought up. We're trying to navigate what the future looks like with several programs. So our chipping program, we pump the brakes on that. As we've mentioned, I guess Conifer Fire Department, the former department known as Intercanyon, funds it. And they're very open that if Director Newby and Mr. Whitehead are successful, and we do not do that, they're going to pull that funding. With that funding will come right around $300,000 budget shortfall, and then that will come to us to figure out what we're going to do with that. You know, there are all kinds of different options, and none of them are very good. So that's why our chipping program is on hold, but what it has done is given us a pause to kind of reevaluate how the program's implemented. Our wildfire prepared home assessment program requests have increased tenfold since the fires in California. So the workload on that program has increased significantly as well. So what we're trying to do is figure out how to meet the needs of the district while operating within what we can do with our current staffing and equipment. So we're looking at kind of going back to what we did in the beginning with community chipping days, and then having certain sign-up days for the people who are participating in our home assessment program, and a couple other things. So we get emails almost daily asking about it, and we have to move forward. But if Conifer Fire pulls all of our funding, what I don't want to have is a massive workload that we have to figure out how we're going to pay for and what we're going to do. So that's kind of where that's at. The other thing I want to talk about is the Rookie Academy. The Rookie Academy has been a joint program as well. It's been a joint program. The Conifer Fire Academy has been in existence since, I believe, off the top of my head, 2013, which has involved Intercanyon, Elk Creek, North Fork, sometimes Black Canyon, Indian Hills, all of us up here. As we start moving forward, you know, the reason we put it on hold this year is what do we do with it? Who do we say we're going to train volunteers for? It's extremely expensive. We usually budget about $35,000 for it, and that's with the cost share that Conifer Fire Department usually gives us. So no, we're not doing it this year because we don't know what it's going to look like, and we don't know who these volunteers we train for. And if Conifer Fire Department pulls all their funding, that is something we don't have the bandwidth to do it on our own. You know, we'd have to hire somebody else to manage that. And that's not really in the cards right now. We'd rather hire responders than hiring somebody else to run the Fire Academy. You know, we just don't have the bandwidth to do it on our own. That's why it's been a joint academy since, well, for like 14 years. Call-wise, it's been a relatively uneventful. We had 67 hours of staff in Station 1. Everything else is about the same. Fires, we did have a small wildland fire, 3.5 acres down in the far side of Conifer Fire Department's district. It was grass fire with a human cause, but it ran 3.5 hours till it bumped at some snowbanks and a road, or 3.5 acres. So it obviously things can dry out, and we'll be back to fire danger. A little bit below the average for the last couple of years at 88 runs. Mutual aid received. We did get mutual aid from Intercanyon. We provided mutual aid 3 times. Transports about the same, a little down. Training, we did have a sleep recovery class with, we hosted that with Conifer Fire Department. We had members from Elk Creek and Conifer Fire in it. It was a tremendous class, one of the best ones I've ever taken in my career. And it had to do with the health and wellness and the impacts of sleep deprivation and how valuable sleep is. We'll have another update on a lot of this with next month when we do an update on the strategic plan and some of the implementation parts. Fire prevention, 4 inspections, and again, Fire Marshal Rush and Captain Yellen are working with Jefferson County on SB 23-166 and how it's going to impact the district. The other thing that we got kind of late, and I didn't get it in here, we did get another grant. It was a furworm grant, if you're familiar with that. We've applied several times for another chipper. It's a tracked chipper. This one's very different than what we have, so it's actually a chipper that operates on tracks. So it's a unit on its own. It will drive off-road, steep slope, that sort of thing. We've been looking at that because the ability to burn piles is dwindling. We just don't get the snow. We don't get the burn days that we have. You know, it used to be we would have 20 or 30 burn days. When we first started burning piles, I don't know, 25 years ago, we could burn piles all winter long. You know, this last snowfall we got on Shadow Mountain, I know we got about 2 feet on the south-facing slopes. In 2 days, it was gone. So with kind of the way the weather is, we need another fuel treatment method for some of our mitigation projects that were off the road. And this has proven to be been a tool a lot of places. So Captain Yellen, I think this was our 3rd go-around. We got this grant. It's, I think, $165,000-ish? 150. So we got the grant. There is a bit of match. We're going to be able to, one of the trucks we were planning on replacing anyway, we're going to use this match. So that's pretty exciting. Next month you'll probably see some of the, again, this will be a reimbursement grant, so obviously we'll spend the money on the front and be reimbursed for it. So we're continuing on some of our projects, some of our capital projects we didn't touch last year. On our fleet replacement, we have a 2002 F550 pickup. It's got 100,000 miles on it, and it's over 20 years old. It's time to replace it, so we're going to replace it with a light vehicle, and we're going to be able to utilize that and the cost of a trailer for match on this grant, which is pretty good. A couple other things. I know Director Woods talked about capital improvements. We have been on a holding pattern for several months now, but the thing is, while people can hang us up in court, we still have to exist. People still have calls for service. And so while our legal battles will keep going, the fire department still has to move on. So we're going to start moving forward with some of our capital improvements within the stations, some of the living quarters improvements, as well as some of the improvements at Station 2.
Well, Chief, I want to say that I appreciate the effort that you all are putting forth for the health and safety of our firefighters. And even if it's a sleep study, was that Toomey that gave that class?
Have you taken
it? It's a great class.
It really is.
But anything we can do for our firefighters to increase their longevity, reduce their cancer risk, give them a better opportunity to be sound and fit on a fire ground, that's the way to save Elk Creek Fire.
100%.
Focus on our firefighters.
100%. We'll have a pretty good update next month. You know, we have a health and wellness committee, a legitimate one that's been stood up, not just 1 or 2 people, a legitimate committee that's working on some of the recommendations from the strategic plan. And so we're hopefully going to have a new budget line item for health and wellness, and we're going to move forward with a number of initiatives this year.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for Chief Wire? Director Newby.
I'm good.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Chief. Well, that leads us to old business, and there is no old business that was continuing from previous months, so we will move right into new business. We have no new business on the agenda, and there was none brought forth earlier when we approved the agenda. I'll give an opportunity. Is there any new business from the board? All right, Director Newby, do you agree no new business there?
We're good.
All right, perfect. Well, we are getting back to where we were. At 6:40, I am going to call for adjournment of
Motion to
the
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, adjournment at 6:40. Thank you all. I appreciate you all being here.